everyone. You are so warmly welcome to this webinar today, Digital Bridges, Not Divides, where we're going to explore the cross-section of empathy, ethics, and AI through a faith and belief lens and through intergenerational dialogue. My name is Elizabeth Perks, and I'm a member of KAICIID's e-learning unit. And it's wonderful to see participants joining us from so many places from around the world. And it's an absolute delight to be hosting you all today. So why this webinar on ethics, empathy, and AI? As artificial intelligence continues to shape how we live, communicate, and relate to one another, we felt it was important to bring this conversation into a space grounded in interreligious and intercultural dialogue, enriched by voices across generations. Its concept design is guided by important global conversations already underway, from the Pact for the Future to the Rome Call for AI Ethics, and coming just after the International Day of Girls in Information and Communication Technologies under the theme AI for Development, Girls Shaping the Digital Future, we feel it's a timely reminder that the digital future must be shaped inclusively and by all generations. And with that, let's get to the good stuff. It's my real pleasure to introduce our speakers today, who I thank greatly for their time and engagement today and for all the preparations we've gone through over the past couple of weeks. So let me introduce to you Harry Myolin, researcher, writer, and consultant exploring the intersection of technology, freedom of religion or belief, and peace building. Welcome, Harry. It's lovely to see you here today. I'd like to introduce you to Taras Jubanski, scholar of interreligious dialogue and ethics, who works and engages deeply with questions of human freedom, responsibility, and emerging technologies. Taras is a KAICIID Fellow. Welcome, Taras, to today's webinar. Patrick Godey, peacebuilding practitioner, policy analyst, and youth leader, and member of the IDOV Global Youth Network. Welcome, Patrick. It's been lovely to make your acquaintance. And now I'm going to place you, I'll put my video back on. Now I'm going to place you into the wonderful hands of our moderators today. Ruhi Rusaba, peacebuilding practitioner, Messengers of Peace hero, creator of spaces for dialogue and harmony, and a KAICIID e-learning champion. Thank you, Ruhi, for being with us today and for taking this role. And I'd also like to welcome, and it's a last but not least, Leila Hassan-Dazic, psychologist, psychotherapist, peace builder, partnerships lead with the United Religions Initiative, and a KAICIID Fellow. The floor is yours.
Welcome everyone on our behalf. It's such lovely to see many familiar faces and so many of you joining today's webinar. It is our pleasure to be able in a position to moderate this hopefully meaningful and engaging discussion. So in order to start, I would like to share a few introductory remarks before we move into the discussion with our great panelists today that we are having. So allow me again to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from where are you joining us today. And thank you very much for being here with us. And it is a real pleasure to join this conversation on the digital bridges, not divides, ethic, empathy, and AI, which is the theme I think feels both very timely, but also deeply necessary in today's world. So we are living in a moment where artificial intelligence is no longer something that is abstract or very distant from us, but it is already shaping how we are communicating, how we are making our decision, and even how we are understanding one another. And the question is no longer whether AI will influence our societies, but it is more how and with which values it will be guided later on. What I personally feel and find especially powerful about today's conversation and the space that was lovely created by KAICIID is the focus on dialogue. Because when we talk about AI ethics, we often focus on policies, on different kind of regulations, on technological safeguards, but ethics does not emerge only from systems. It also emerges from relationship, from listening, and from our ability to hold spaces from different perspectives. So this is where intergenerational and interreligious dialogue becomes essential. Young people bring urgency, creativity, energy, and live experience of the digital spaces. But they understand both the opportunities and also the risks of AI in very immediate ways. At the same time, faith traditions and senior leaders bring depth and ethical wisdom, values of dignity, compassion, and responsibility that have guided humanity for centuries. And when these voices come together, something important happens because we start moving from abstract principles to human-centered understanding. And perhaps that is what we need most right now. Not only smarter technologies, but wiser conversations. Because the real challenge is not just building intelligent systems, but ensuring they reflect our shared humanity. And trying to respond some of the questions like, do they promote dignity or division? Do they amplify empathy or polarization? Or do they create bridges or deepen existing divides? And from my experience in peace building and interfaith work, I've seen that dialogue has the power to transform tensions into trust. And I believe that the same applies in the digital space and AI as well. If we approach AI with empathy, with inclusion, and shared responsibility, it can become a tool for connection rather than fragmentation. So today, I hope we can move beyond questions of fear or control and instead ask, how can we co-create a digital future that is ethical, inclusive, and deeply human? Thank you all once again for coming, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation and our amazing panelists that will be addressing all of you today. But now I would like to give floor back to my lovely co-moderator, Ruhi, who will take it from here.
Thank you so much, Leila. That was wonderful introduction, and I am expecting a lot of interesting and novel concepts and historical aspects to be discussed today, along with our way forward in this. I'm pretty sure the audience is too. In addition to that, we want to hear what the audience wants to share. Therefore, we really encourage interactions, and we will have a Q&A segment at the end of the panel discussion. We also have a demonstration where we will have further opportunities to ask questions, interact, and share. I hope everyone is ready to dive in. Let me then begin by asking our panelists to share what excites or unsettles them most about AI right now. You may share in one or two sentences, and let us start with Harry and then Taras and lastly Patrick continually. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Ruhi, and thank you for beautiful introductory remarks from Laila. So what really excites me about AI, like when I come across using AI a few years back, it's sometimes exciting. It's also a lot of dilemma, like where this is moving. So I feel like AI is like many of the major turning points in human history. So if we look in the human history, humanity has gone through so many moments like that, like which completely change our society. We have industrial revolution. We have the invention of electricity, invention of internet, and last decade the invention of social media, the way the news flows, the way the information flows has been completely changed. So I think AI is also another transformation like that. And it excites me, especially its potential to improve like many aspects of our life, be it education, accessibility, translation of many culture and languages, promoting dialogue, and so many other aspects. But there are also a lot of things that unsettle me. Is the technological capability is advancing. It is advancing like much faster that we cannot even imagine. Like you wake up in the morning and you see the version of AI you are using is completely old. And the next day you might see another AI agent coming out, which is totally a new upgrade. So the technology is moving really fast. Then the society, as we as a society come up with some mature ethical aspect. So we are always one step behind the technological side. And the question here is, I think, no longer whether AI will shape our future or not, but the question is who is gonna shape it, who has the power, and which values are based on developing this new technological aspect.
Thank you so much, Harry, for this sharing. Let us now go to Taras, and let me remind our speakers. This is the first question, so we will only be expecting 1 or 2 sentences, and then we can dive deeper later in our next questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rui, and it's very exciting to be here. What's exciting about AI and technology is that AI has unimaginable power that we are witnessing. I mean, you can have surgery hundreds of miles away, being away from the doctor. We can meet in this room, virtual room today. There are so many people, 50 people from so many countries. Without AI and technology, we wouldn't be able to meet it. What's unsettling is that what kind of implications does AI bring to anthropology? So it's not the question of what can AI do, but what does AI do to us as human beings? So the anthropological question to me is a little bit unsettling, and I hope we can discuss it a bit later.
Obviously, we will discuss it in deeper. Lastly, Patrick, in 1 or 2 sentences, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohia. It's quite exciting for me to join all of you in today's discussion. Coming to your question, I think the transformative power of AI has been able to create possibilities, including for historically excluded communities in the world, I think, through giving access, whether it's to information, to education, to tools that previously could have not been imaginable to be accessed by such groups. And what really unsettles me, again, I think I'll share this with Harry, the pace at which the technology is evolving, and also concerns around whether we as human beings, we are keeping pace with its regulation. I mean, like it was said before, every now and then you have more and more powerful versions of different AIs, and yet regulation, I think, is not keeping pace with that. So I think it raises question about the future of its ethical use. And this is one of the things that continuously worry me, but hopefully we can find a way to go about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruhi, and thank you, our dear panelists, for these introduction words. Yes, it is very exciting, AI, but also there are a lot of questions that you would like to address today. And starting with the one that I think some of you already mentioned in your discussion, and I think we can all agree that artificial intelligence nowadays is moving incredibly fast. It's opening a lot of possibilities for us, but it is very, very incredibly developing and on a very fast pace. So who is actually shaping it today? And whose values are being embedded in that? This is what we would like to address, and I would like to ask Harry to start with a more specific question that I will ask you, is that from a historical perspective, Is this pattern new, or it is something that we saw also before in some of the previous technologies? And if you would like then to address also the first question that I share, technology is moving very fast, so who is actually shaping it and whose values are being embedded into it? So Harry, if you would like to share a few words.
Yes, I will be short this time. So I think it's kind of both. Like, there are, whenever the new technology comes up, there are always this resistance. Like, how do we tackle it? How are we going to transform the technology? Are we going to adapt it? And then how are we going to adapt it? And the next step is like how, as a country or as a state or a society, we are going to utilize this system, and how are we going to form a governance system that can make the technology to be more useful and more effective. And so far in AI development, I think there are some like big companies, some governments who are a step, like many step ahead on developing the technology, which also give them leverage to develop governance values and ethical values. And there is basically they are mostly the global, not the well-developed country, and they can influence also on the policy making. And currently, we can see there are three main approach roughly on AI. One is studying from the US, where they focus more on libertarian policies, where there are more freedom, like more free hand to the market. And there is another approach which is originated from China, where the things are more much under control and much tight. And there is also a approach from European, where as most of the European do, going in the middle. There are a lot of policy development initiative, a lot of control, at the same time also empowering the new innovation. So these are the three main approaches we see in AI governance and the development of the ethic and governance structure of AI. And the very short at the lens there, in the global level, there is a UNESCO adopted recommendation for ethic of AI, which is a document we can go to as a global framework. There is also a call of action of AI ethic, a Rome call of action, which was sponsored by the Holy See. And yeah, I think there are also a smaller initiative regionally, like in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia, and in African Union. The conversations are happening, but there is no like unilateral framework or convention for AI and ethics so far.
Great, thank you very much for bringing this perspective and understanding of different ways how different countries and societies is approaching it. And as you said, this is also a little bit even like we can reflect on history and some things that happened in the past that similar society are following the similar path. So thank you for giving us this framework, which will be very useful for the later discussion. And now, Patrick, coming back to you, because we named this as an intergenerational discussion, and we would like to focus also on the intergenerational understanding of a topic as it is. So I would like to ask you how this is looking like in communities on the ground root level. So Harry is talking about societies, about governments, about the countries, but how this is influencing communities and especially young people within them. So if you can reflect a little bit on that, Patrick. And if you can unmute so that we can hear you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
No, thank you for your question. I mean, AI in communities that I have worked with, especially among young, has been quite a game changer in terms of how we relate among ourselves, about how youth leaders go on to mobilize communities around communal or even national issues. And I have seen, like, in the case of my own leadership within South Sudan's youth space, a country that has been going through conflict, and how young people came around the time when there was an opening for a peace process. But even before there was a peace process, really, I must say that it took efforts of young people campaigning across the country, within the neighborhood, to see that they exert pressure on the warring parties to see the essence of why it's important to have peace in the country, why it's important to have stability that can usher in opportunities for economic development. And some of the issues that really brought young people together, first of all, was the untold suffering that they witnessed in their communities. And while everybody recognized this as an issue, I think there had not existed a common platform where people could come together to discuss these issues, because we're also talking about a period where there is insecurity. But thanks to technology, I mean, I remember we started a movement of young people. And what really brought us in our different corners of the country, whether you found yourself in a part controlled by one group or in a part controlled by the government, the technology enabled us to have conversations among ourselves to raise the common issues that affected us, regardless of which part of the country that you found in, regardless of even the political group which controlled that area. And I think being able to have that common platform, discussing issues that are of common concern through this technology like the internet, provided a first step to raise the consciousness of young people to even take greater initiative and leadership in terms of how they shape the conflict that was going on, including urging regional countries, regional bodies like the African Union, the IGAD, to take the issue of exerting pressure to mediate the conflict. And I think that offered us the first opportunity to mobilize across communities, across political groups on a common agenda for young people. And that really did provide the basis for the current peace agreement that we see in South Sudan. And I remember we launched this highly successful online campaign, which we call South Sudan is Watching. And literally it decentralized participation. Wherever that you found yourself, you could write a message and then you hashtag it, South Sudan is Watching. It went all over. It got seen and listened to by policymakers, by diplomats. And I think this was a powerful way of how technology provided an opportunity for youth leadership, which continue to evolve even now in terms of relative stability that we see in South Sudan, including now campaigning on more substantive issues such as the electoral process that is underway with elections scheduled in December 2026, but also other processes like the permanent constitution making process, which has really brought together a cohort of young people that are interested to see their views incorporated into the future constitution of the country.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing this. I really like this positive perspective, how you are talking about technologies connecting people and opening the platform for some changes and for the dialogue and for community for coming together. So I think this is very important value despite some of the negativity that may be present over there. And now going back to you, Taras. So when we are talking from a faith and ethical perspective, where do you see values entering the shaping of AI today? Are they actively influencing it, or do you think that they are still mostly on the margins?
Yeah, thank you, Leila. Great question. And yes, of course, AI programs and programming, it doesn't happen in vacuum because there's always a human person behind AI or a software or a program or anything that is being developed by AI. So technology always implies anthropology, right? There is a man or a woman behind the screen. So definitely, so what can AI do to a human person, right? It can definitely increase our efficiency. I mean, the speed that we receive information, the amount of information we can receive today. But then the question is, does it make us better humans? Does it actually help us flourish as human beings? Because AI does, impact every aspect of human life: education, economy, cross-cultural dialogue, interfaith dialogue. So even religious faiths or religious believers, they're influenced by AI today. What they read, what they see on their screen on social media, oftentimes it's algorithm based, right? So there are all these algorithms. So who decides these algorithms? Are the people who are developing the AI systems? They definitely bring their worldview into AI, right? I mean, they bring their stereotypes, their prejudices, right? They bring their anthropology, how they see a human person. So all of that is wonderful, but also, we have to be very careful, especially as believers, right? Because we all have our own view, even as Muslims, Christians, or any other faiths, right? We have our religious views and beliefs. What does it do to our faith? Does it help us become better believers, or does it shape us maybe in a different way based on the algorithm? So these are the questions that we need to be mindful of when we talk about AI.
Yeah, thank you for Taras for bringing even more questions. But yeah, as you said, there are a lot of questions and things that need to be discussed, and I'm sure that Ruhi will be taking over and asking some in the direction with what you just started sharing, Taras. So Ruhi.
Keeping Taras in the motion, and we are moving on to a more question, like, as AI becomes part of how we think, create, and decide, what do we need to actively protect about being human? And now to bring the faith perspective again, Taras, are we at risk of becoming shaped by what we create? Could you please reflect on that portion of it? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruhi. Again, wonderful question, anthropological and theological question, right? Because as I said, technology implies anthropology, and there's always a human person behind these algorithm deciding, patterns. And oftentimes and now I'm speaking as a Christian, right? In the Christian view, and also I would say in the Judaic and Islamic view, a human person has intrinsic dignity, and we are created in the image of God. We are like God. We have to become like God. So does AI as our creation help us become better? Or is AI created in the image of man, right? Are we trying to create sort of another superhuman? Because AI, I mean, if you look at AI, it is more powerful, right? It is more it's faster than human beings. It has so much information. But here it's not a question of competing with AI, right? Because we are not trying to become a machine. I mean, it makes no sense. Are we trying to humanize the machine? Well, some people would say yes, because you see the emotions, and now you have apps that can actually help you become more spiritual or more a believer. So these are great questions, and we don't always have an answer to them. But what we have to keep in balance is that the anthropological vision of humanity, of man and a woman, it has to be solid. It has to be based on solid principles. And most of the people who are here in this virtual room, we are believers, right? We are doing interfaith dialogue. So all of these anthropological principles, they come from theologies of our faiths. And then when we engage on social media or when we engage on different platforms, we have to be mindful of that, because responsibility comes here as well. We see a lot of polarization on social media. Why does it come there? What causes all this polarization if technology is there to help us build communities? So how does technology and AI influence how our community is being shaped? We saw that during COVID, right? We were all on screens, we were locked in our houses, but thanks to technology, we were able to attend virtually the liturgical services. We were able to to sing even online together, So technology does help us, but again, it has its limits, and we have to be careful how it shapes our thinking behavior and our understanding of who the human person is.
Yeah, wonderful. Certainly. So, yes, exactly. It is up to us on how we wish to humanize AI, and how we also put in accountability in whatever we do to decide with it. And yeah, going back to Harry, the question I want to ask you is on more of is it realistic to slow down ethically, or do we need to learn how to engage AI responsibly while it's already evolving and advancing every day?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but I don't think we can slow down a technology that is already evolving. But it's really important, especially as a peace builders, dialogue practitioners, more as a civil society movement. Like, we need to learn how we adapt the situation that are evolving that fast. Because one major challenge we see is a lot of harmful actors are using AI much more faster than we as a peace building communities are using it. Like, we have seen these trans national crimes groups, scam centers. They were using AIs like 5 to 6 years before, while we started talking about AI. And we have seen a lot of use of AI in military technology, which resulted the loss of many lives. So there is this technology, and if we don't adopt it fast enough, it is already adopted by a lot of harmful actors, extremist group, propagandists, disinformation network. So this is really important that we have to try to adapt the situations, and we should avoid this hesitance to engage with it at all. I understand their hesitation about adopting AI, but the community or faith community who promote ethical worldview, if we cannot adopt these challenges, these spaces, it will be used by other actors that may not be acting in the interest of humanity.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think the question is there that is it possible to even regulate the continuous advancement of these technologies? If we do, however we, coming back to Taras, however we try, decide to humanize it, it will turn that way. So lastly, to Patrick, to bring in that intergenerational perspective, how do you think how are young people navigating this whole situation? Do they feel empowered, or do they feel overwhelmed? And what are they doing as remedy, or are they using it as an opportunity instead? Would you like to share it with us? Thank
you. Yes, I think I did highlight the opportunities that come with it. However, also, I think with the fast nature of how technology evolves, I think there are also real concerns among young people. For example, if I may just give an example, just a few months ago in South Sudan, one of the hotels introduced the first robot as a waitress in a hotel. And this is in a context where a lot of young people do not have jobs. A lot of people are unemployed. And then introducing that technology, really, it did raise concerns from a lot of young people about the future of employment. And if technology is being introduced, what happens? So there is really that anxiety also that really, in already bad times, technology might perhaps even worsen the situation. And I think these are real concerns that should be taken into consideration. And I think they should form part of the continuous dialogue whether it's involving governments or technological firms and communities, to see that there is a place of understanding on some of these opportunities, but also how the risks that they could pose in terms of diminishing, especially in slow to catch up places of the world in terms of these technologies. I think it becomes really, really important. So I think that's a concern, but also I think the other issue that is problematic is around the biases that some of these technologies create. For example, we see increasingly how young people sometimes are recruited and manipulated online, and they have gone on to become extremists, causing terror within communities. I think these are real issues that should definitely be given consideration to be discussed, so that these tools do not become powerful enemies against our communities, but they are rather a source of empowerment, of progressing young people, whether it's development in their leadership, or even giving them access to opportunities, increasing their knowledge. I think it's from this point that we need to strike that balance, so that some of these harms that we anticipate, we also have equally modalities of mitigating them. And I think that can only come through understanding, by bringing on board all these relevant actors in continuous dialogues to increase understanding.
Thank you for sharing, Patrick. And I also agree that it will all come down to how we are safeguarding these technologies, the usage of these technologies, who we are holding accountable, and how we are letting AI influence our decisions and our outcomes. Thank you so much. I am giving the floor again to Leila for it to be going to the next segment.
And my next question will go into the direction building on what has already been shared, and some of you already shared. Like, AI is often development in some specific context for specific purposes. And as Harry really nicely pointed out, sometimes even there's like groups who are using it for more negative purposes are using that for already quite some time, while it is in a peace building work, it's just like emerging. But we are anyway using this globally. It doesn't matter in how specific context it has been made. We all are using it, and it has its own advantages, and we are all here today because of the technology and AI. But what tensions arise when these technologies meet local culture, tradition, and realities? And I would like to go back to Patrick and ask you, in your specific context, where do you see AI supporting communities, and where does it risk undermining them? I know you shared like a lot about elections and usage by young people and everything else, but if you can share a little bit more information regarding that, how you see it in your own technology, and especially with the young people and in very specific community in which you are working.
Okay. Yes, I think where we have had real opportunities to use these technologies, for example, is around dissemination of information, simplifying national frameworks, legislations, and also accessibility, because where there's a lot of young people who do not have the opportunities, or you don't have the chances to convene people together, you have the opportunity to easily send out this information through mobiles. And also, we really had this time when we couldn't really print bulk pieces of legislation, for example, and we developed this chatbot, which has simplified writings about the process within the Constitution. its provisions. So you could literally ask it a question, what does the law say, for example, on a youth enterprise fund, and then it will give you the answer. So we find this important in terms of advocacy, also giving the young people the opportunity to have information in their fingertips. This helps them in engaging with their local leaders. This also helps in passing the right information, because also this is a society that largely education has been disrupted by conflict. So a lot of people along the way dropped out of schools. And so really the formal channels to access information, whether it's through the newspapers or through the news or through meetings, are sort of limited. So we thought that was one great way that we use this technology to cascade access to information issues. I can also say that I know of a women's group that developed a similar chatbot to report on cases of SGBV. And this was a cross-border kind of initiative with colleagues in Nigeria. This really proved to be very important in sharing good practices, in sharing experiences between the Nigerians who are more advanced in using the technology and South Sudanese women. I found it also to be interesting. So I think the opportunities do exist. It's a matter of how can they be utilized and how can they be expanded to see that as many people can have access to it. Of course, the contention remains in place. For example, nowadays, the ability that AI gives you to create images or videos. Now, for really traditional communities that are not well acquainted with this kind of progress, I think the room to cause misinformation is quite high. And we've also seen such examples of how they have nearly caused tensions in the national level because of the misrepresentation that now these technologies allows a single individual in their living room to misrepresent events, to misrepresent individuals. And I think this is a problem because, again, the tools for people to be able to fact check some of these narratives that are created are not in place. They do not exist. And sometimes by the time a fact check happens, really a lot of damage has already been created. And I think this is the real fear in my situation here, that a few individuals who are well educated in how to use these technologies could be in a position that of so much influence to mislead entire communities. And this remains a very serious challenge. Even the government, despite its concerns through introducing a cyber crime and computer misuse legislation, I think has not yet been able to get to the bottom of this clash between how it's affecting how communities now perceive happenings within their surrounding.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for highlighting all these positive examples, but as well as some of the downsides. But it was very inspiring for me to listen how your community is using it and how you're also addressing and tackling some of the downsides of it. And I saw a lot of positive reaction from the audience here. So I think that everyone who is participating really very much appreciated everything that you shared, dear Patrick. And moving from your local community and the context of how you see AI supporting communities, I would like to go back to the Harry, asking you, how do current global framework actually account for these differences? Are they two one size that fits all approach, or are there some attempts to make it more approachable for the different communities? How do you see, Harry, from your experience?
Yeah, this is also very very interesting. I would like to start with one very funny experience I have regarding this. So I'm not very good at cooking, and recently I was trying to make a kind of special rice that my mom used to make, and I asked ChatGPT how long I should cook this rice, and it said 10 minutes. And then I cooked for like 10 minutes, and it became really hot. And then I asked my mom like how long she cook, and she said it's 30 minutes. Then I said I cannot cook 30 minutes because ChatGPT told me 10 minutes. And then she said ChatGPT doesn't know we have different kind of rice. And it really gave me a thought that how these AI systems are developed in very specific situation, even if we go to political or cultural level, but then it is deployed globally with one framework. But we have a lot of diverse and complex society that it's very difficult to adapt. So like if you even look at the large language models, these systems are primarily trained on very like dominant language like English, dominant histories, dominant cultural assumption. So if we bring these models to communities in, let's say, Southeast Asia or Africa or Middle East or any other region that may have very different ways of understanding of identity, religion, community, the results are really different, and we really need a lot of work to be done on such aspect. And I would call it inclusion in technology, but it doesn't mean that we provide different community just to get access to technology. But we think inclusion in a wider sense, like we think about involving different historical context, language, tradition, faith in developing the technology, that it can really be a inclusive kind of technology, and experiences can be shared throughout the world.
Thank you very much, Harry, for this laugh at the beginning. I saw a lot of reaction, and I think this was very plastic, if I may say, like that example of how definitely is all these AI are not definitely one size fits all, and that there are layers to it, but it is incredible what you managed to address in your response to the question. And to finish this round of responding to question, going back to the Taras, I would like to ask, how can faith and ethical tradition help us navigate these cultural tensions and differences that we can experience while we are using AI as a technology?
Yeah, wonderful. Before I answer the question, Leila, just give another example of using ChatGPT, of how wrong it can be. It's not about rice, it's about the Pope. So a few days ago, somebody asked me how old is Pope Leo, and I was sure he's 70 years old because I commented his election. So I asked ChatGPT, how old is Pope Leo? By the way, you can do it on your phone right now, and I'm just interested to see if you got the right answer or if ChatGPT knows it. And you know what ChatGPT told me? There's no Pope Leo. I was shocked. Like, what? ChatGPT doesn't know we have a new Pope? So you have to be careful when using ChatGPT, either when you're cooking rice or when you're asking questions about the Pope in the Vatican. But the question about the values, it's super important because we as religious people and we as believers, right? We bring values to society, and that's why religion is so important, because religions are about values, the dignity of the human person, the value of the human freedom, responsibility, empathy, right? I mean, you cannot teach a machine to love, or you cannot teach a machine to suffer. And we as human beings, we experience that. That's why faith, spirituality, they matter. And with the help of machines, with the help of AI, we can become better, right? But they can never substitute what religion or faith or spirituality gives us. And these are meaningful relations, encounters on a human level.
Exactly. I think this is a very beautiful message that you shared, Taras, in the end. Definitely, yes. AI is there as a tool, is very helpful, will do positive and negative sides to it, but it can never change human beings and the love and empathy and all the beautiful things that we are bringing as a humans here. So thank you very much, all dear panelists, for the feedbacks and all the discussion that we have and all funny examples that you shared that were also equally very meaningful to start us thinking in different direction. And I would like to give floor back to the Ruhi, who will be helping us to navigate into second part of today's discussion.
Thank you so much, Leila. I think what we are going to do right now is go to Harry to do his demonstration on the tool that he has created. Harry, are you ready?
It's just a simple tool that ran on ChatGPT platform. I created this tool called HARMONIQ. My intention is to develop a AI system where you can practice dialogue and you can do reflection and brainstorm. And I was a bit too much of the how do I say, too thinking too much, that I want to create something like a consultant who can be there for you everywhere, where you talk about religious freedom and interreligious dialogue. This is my goal. I'm still developing the AI agent, but this version of HARMONIQ is on ChatGPT, where you can easily use to brainstorm and reflect on what we are what we want to do. My How I train it is I feed as much of data I have about my work back in Myanmar and in Southeast Asia on interreligious dialogue and religious freedom. So some example it give maybe quoting too much from the Southeast Asian context, but I try as much as I can to be neutral. So the plan here for today is I would like to try with 3 different questions that we see how it work and how it react. So you can also try on your phone or your computer. It's on ChatGPT. You can look for the custom GPT name HARMONIQ, HARMONIQ, and you can directly chat with it. So for now, I have. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Harry, we can see your screen.
Okay, so for now, I have developed 3 questions already. So one is to cover about interfaith dialogue. So I will try to do that here. So the first question I'm asking is, how can I organize an interfaith youth workshop between Christian and Muslim students in a polarized environment? So it can be a question from a student or an activist or just someone who wants to learn about how to organize an interfaith youth workshop and running out of idea or need more innovative idea. So this is the first question I'm asking it, and let's see how it answers.
While we wait for the answers, I also encourage the audience to put down any questions that they might like to see HARMONIQ answer please put those questions in the chat, and we will try to test HARMONIQ while Harry is explaining on describing how it works. And what we are trying to do here is see how we can learn how to ask the right questions to get the right responses when we are using AI like ChatGPT and Claude. Thank you.
Yes. So yeah, this is the first answer we got. Like, it start with the do no harm assessment. I think if you ask a normal GPT, maybe it's development, I'm not sure, but normally when you ask a GPT, it doesn't go through that much. Like for me, when I train this GPT, I make sure that do no harm is one of the principle it follow. So it come first, then it go through a different stages, like how you can organize the interfaith workshop. And also it gives some exercise you can do. These are probably some of the tools KAICIID might be using in the training, because I also was with KAICIID for many years. So this you can already know about it. And also it proposed like some of the practical joint activity you can do. And what can you do if you have some difficult moment, like how if you are get challenged, how will you answer this? And it has a agenda, like 1 day workshop, what kind of session you can do, how you can cover, and what should you do after this workshop, like what can be a follow-up activity you can do. So this is like even if you are writing a proposals or brainstorming, you can use it. So it's more about developing activity or program of interreligious dialogue and religious freedom particularly. And then I'll go to another question. This one is more about ethic. So we will ask HARMONIQ about what risk should peace builder consider when using AI-generated content in fragile conflict setting. So it won't present you with activities. It will present more with the ethical perspective of the topic.
And I see we have a question. I think Yash is trying to have HARMONIQ answer this question. It's like a comparative list of different models of dialogue in Asia and Africa.
Okay,
Could
I'll
HARMONIQ
copy it
answer
and
this
then
question as well?
okay.
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
Okay, so for this question, it come up with the key risks, like about deepfake, hallucination, false attribution that you can see by using AI. Like number 3 is very important, like reinforcing bias, like AI tend to agree with you wherever you are saying. So these are the things that you can think about when you are using AI and when you are developing your proposal or research or anything. And here I also make sure it quote the real quote. For example, here it is quoting from ICRC, so it's quite neutral and globally accepted principles. You can see it's using like from UNESCO. Yeah, so this is the second question we try. For third, I would try the question from audience, which is about a comparative list of different model of dialogue in Asia and Africa. So I'll say, please share with me. Yeah, I would say up to 3, so it won't take long.
Won't give me like 10 seconds, no? 3 seconds? It's just crazy.
No, I mean up to 3, yeah.
Yes, and also after this demonstration, we also have an interactive audience poll where we also will be discussing and exploring what we want to prioritize while using this AI technology. So I think that would be very interesting to join in as well. And thank you so much for sending your questions in the Q&A and also sharing with Harry different questions to ask HARMONIQ. Harry, over to you.
Okay, so this is so I put the up to 3. So it is proposing 3 different models. One is like dialogue of life, dialogue for joint action, insider mediation. So these are the model, what are the core idea of this model, what are the best use case, Asian example, African example, strength, and risk. So this is you can study it comparatively. Yeah, and for fun, I just updated yesterday. You can even now generate pictures. So this with the latest version of ChatGPT, which is quite good for image generation. But this you can try yourself, I would say. And yeah, and you can always look for HARMONIQ on ChatGPT app. It's called HARMONIQ. And yeah, if you have any feedback, feel free to reach out to me. If you have question or feedback, we are welcome to hear from you.
Let's move on to our next segment, and I welcome Mohammed to take on the screen.
I will be speaking very briefly about the consideration when we are doing a dialogue initiative or interfaith or intercultural dialogue, and I think our panelists have already touched upon this. So at KAICIID, before any initiative, we design it, we check so many things, but 4 things maybe for you to consider in this session. So the first one is the people in the room, who is represented, who is missing. The second thing is the space or your context. Is it safe? Is it inclusive? The third element is the purpose, which is always learning. And the final thing that's Layla, Taras, Patrick, Ruhi, and Harry touch upon, which is the human relationship. So any dialogue initiative or an interfaith one is focused on the human aspect to build trust, to build the relationship. And these things are very important to consider when AI jumps in, because these 4 things does not disappear when we use AI. They become more important because AI can support you in your planning. It can support you in the outreach and making decisions and looking for funding opportunities. But AI does not have active listening skills. They don't have the empathy. They cannot understand the human relationship. And this is where you step in. And this is where you fill that gap. You close that gap so that they are not divided. And this is related to our title of the session today. So 4 things again to consider: the people, the room, the space, and the purpose. And for this, why we have tried to do this framing, because before we do AI, we ask them for so many things, but we should always step back a little bit and consider these 4 things. And of course, we will have one question to you, and I think if you can share it, Liz, if that's possible. We have one question for you to answer today, which is, if you have, thank you so much. So if you decide to use AI to build an interfaith initiative, what is the one thing you will prioritize before this? You have unlimited opportunities, unlimited prompt, unlimited questions, but you need to prioritize. So what is the one thing you need to do? Of course, you can join through the QR code here. Thanks for our distinguished moderators who helped us planning this. So we invite you to respond to this question if possible, and retain the 4 things that I have shared with you before. And while you are responding, of course, we invite you to check, if you want to go deeper, the 10th principle of dialogue and our full dialogue guidelines on our website in the resource section. We have also another important game called Dialogo that makes it easier to practice dialogue and interfaith initiative, because sometimes it's easier to practice dialogue while we play. So I've seen a lot of important messages: nuance, complexity, power balance, the local context, dynamics. We have also on the chat, active listening to help me understand the context and the people engaged, empathy, amazing. And all of this looks human. So they are not AI focused skills or AI focused qualities. So, and here is the thing that we need to consider. Always think about AI as a tool, as Taras, Harry, Patrick, Ruhi, Laila was saying before. These can help us. These can make our work advance. It can make our work better. We can have informed decisions. But again, the human relationship comes first, the empathy, the active listening, the understanding of the context. And I think we have very good responses at the moment. Empathy, I think empathy is the word that stands out here, and the human feature. Any other responses? We still, I think, have 2 minutes before we close this, so don't miss this opportunity to contribute to this important webinar. Humanity, a very important thing. Thanks, Melody, for sharing it. And you can always keep adding answers. The local context, the dynamics. Yes, Roy.
Yes, we can also see on the screen that is being shared where we can see like different responses. Empathy has a lot of a lot of people put in empathy. There's also do no harm, safety, power balance, active listening. I think these are all very important to consider when we are using AI and we are engaging in dialogue.
Indeed, thank you. And the purpose of this question is always to remember the key considerations, the do no harm that Harry spoke about earlier, the human relationship, the local context that Patrick, Ruhi, and Laila spoke about. So let's always try to remember these things when we try to work with AI, because AI cannot have active listening. They don't have empathy for the moment. Integrity is a very important one, to think about the power balance, to think about resist generalization, and to help us better understand the context, what also put the human relationship first. I think a lot of great ideas are coming here, a lot of great responses, impressive. Curiosity also, personal style of facilitation, complexity. So we have 3 words that stand out today: empathy, integrity, and complexity. And it forms like a framework here, if you can see it with me here. Also, we have from the chat several good responses also. Not judgment, very important thing indeed, indeed. So I think the exercise is going really well. Do we still have some time, Ruhi, before we move to the next section, or we're gonna close the poll?
We can keep the poll open
Okay.
throughout the session. No worries. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think with this, we have concluded this poll. It will remain open. We will share with you the extra resources in the chat. But again, let's remind ourselves, let's think who is in the room, who is in our community, whether we are inclusive or not. Are we missing someone? Is our purpose learning about ourselves, about the others, not judgmental, not stereotypical? And finally, let's put the human relationship at the center of our initiatives. With that, thank you so much for these excellent responses, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.
We move to our next segment, which is actually the Q&A. And I am so thankful to all of you guys for putting in your questions. These are very interesting questions that we have in the Q&As. And Leila and I will together try to ask our panelists to address all of them. I will start with the first one, and then maybe Leila can take up the next one. So the first question that I can see on my screen is Okay, I wonder how we can balance the benefits of AI with its environmental impact, which is like energy use and water consumption in data centers, and whether long-term use at this cost is sustainable. Thank you, Nancy, for this question, and it is also one of my questions to the panelists as well. I think it falls more towards Harry's expertise, but anyone can join in whenever you want. Thank you so much.
I think it's a very important question. Yeah, there is a good side of AI. We talk about innovation, productivity, everything doing with the tip of our finger, but we most of the time forget about the physical infrastructure behind it, and we feel like AI is just a abstract thing floating in the cloud, it just can't show up on our phone, and in reality it has a massive data center. It needs a lot of enormous computing power, water usage. As someone coming from Myanmar, rare earth minerals, I don't know, like you might know, we are the biggest country who produce rare earth minerals in the world, but one of the very poorest country in the world. So we don't know where these minerals goes, and there were tremendous environmental impact on the communities who live near these rare earth mining areas. There are civil wars. There are different groups trying to took over the land where is the rare earth minerals are growing. So I have witnessed this quite a lot. And I think this conflict is also increasing around the world, like in Africa. Even there are like the topic of Greenland come into. So it's a lot of physical infrastructural thing that that's are challenging. And so I don't have like a ready-made answer to solve this problem. I can just list all the problem we have and how can we move forward while we are taking advantage of this technology, taking a lot of profit, competition, but what does a long-term responsibility look like? And it will be a huge $1 million question. At the same time, I don't think there is a simple answer to it, but there need to be a very creative, smarter system to develop for the energy efficient way to develop AI. And how do governments and companies invest in greener infrastructure at the same time? Like what can we do to protect environment? Or maybe there are some conversation happening about moving data center to space. I don't know how much it is feasible, but yeah, there are a lot of conversation happening. And sadly, I would say I don't have answer. Maybe other panelists can move in if you have any solution to that.
Any other panelists? Yeah,
I
sorry.
never
Yeah,
heard the
Taras.
idea of moving databases or centers to the space, but it sounds crazy to me. I don't know, but definitely that's a problem. And I think we as people of faith, we have to be mindful of that as well. That whenever we send a text, whenever we make a request on ChatGPT, there is always something that is being heated up. So you just have to be mindful of that, and that's where our faith comes in.
Thank you so much, Harry and Taras, for sharing. Moving back to Leila, if you would like to take on the next question.
Thank you very much, Ruhi and Mohammed, as well, for the previous discussion, and to Harry and Taras to these responses. Yes, we may not have response to all of the questions that may come up, but as you said, just like being mindful of the importance of these questions question and the negativity that it is bringing to our environment, and taking into account our responsibility as human beings and believers and faith actors is incredibly important. So thank you very much for this, and I hope that Nancy, you get a little bit of the response to the question that you posted. And the second question was posted by Al Mahroof Muhammad. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. And he is wondering if AI can be used to produce make-believe movies, and that make it easy to be used for disinformation and misinformation. How can one help people interrogate what they see online so that they just don't believe everything? And I think this is very huge, big, but also very important question. And I would like to ask you, Patrick, to respond, because previously you shared some of your thoughts on this, that how we are using AI for misinformation and disinformation. So maybe you would like to address this question that has been posted in the chat.
Yes, I think one of the ways that at a local level that we have been able to mitigate some of the misuse around AI and other technologies is strengthening fact-checking capabilities of institutions, but also increasingly asking people to double-check information before they can circulate it widely. I think that is also placing a personal responsibility to users instead of just sharing every piece of information that you come across, because, like it has been echoed in today's discussion, I think the line between what is real and what seems real with AI is just complicated to know. So I think more and more personal responsibility should be exercised. But also, I think at institutional level, those that are in position to invest, to check information, I think that can be quite helpful in the current situation where we face all these challenges with misinformation. And I think around particularly sensitive processes, again, elections, because these tend to be quite polarizing events in many parts of the world. And I think that's where really institutional support around flagging some of these narratives and misuse becomes even more important.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this. And yes, I think that you are definitely right. There is a huge responsibility of each of us, like how we are treating technology, how we are feeding it, and how we are using it. And I think that example of Harry and HARMONIQ is a great example how we can create something meaningful based on a truth that can be used. And I saw, Taras, that you unmuted yourself. I guess you would like to add something at this point. Yes.
Yes, Leila, thanks so much. One of the persons, I think Felix mentioned in the comments that technological hygiene is very important. And of course, we all agree with that. But also it comes to intergenerational dialogue, because I see my parents, for example, they use Facebook or social media, and they tend to believe everything they see on, on social media, So they become more vulnerable to these deep fakes or misinformation. So this is when it comes to intergenerational dialogue. Maybe we as younger people, we can help them sort of understand or how to use social media, so not to fall into the trap, of being deceived or believing what the fake news tell us. So this is again the issue of intergenerational dialogue comes when to using AI and social media.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Taras, for this addition. And yes, Harry, I saw you are also unmuting.
Yeah, just to add one I think is important is the reform of the educational system. It's really important and urgent, I would say, because our educational system, even in the West or more developed countries, the education system itself is like 2 or 3 decades old. If we go to like less developed country, is much worse. So I think it's really important that even from the primary educational system, we need to include the new soft skills that are needed for the society, like how to work with disinformation, digital educations. I think these are really urgent needs for reforming educational system globally. Like we have every country we go, we teach about mathematics or science, and this can be a new subject that should be integrated into formal educational system.
Yeah, this is extremely important what you say, that this is probably the next step that the government and society need to take into account coming to the education. Yeah, for the sake of the time, I'm giving floor back to the Ruhi, and I think that we have time maybe for one more question to be addressed. But thank you everyone for posting your question and comments and for continuing discussions there as well.
Thank you so much. And I see there's very interesting conversation going on in the chat box. Please keep interacting. I see one question by Yash, where he was like, there were two questions to the panelists, and I hope with our first and second question answered by Patrick and Taras actually answered them. Thank you so much for your question, Yash. I want to go to the next one that I see that we can like maybe finish with, which is okay, so what recommendations could you provide when using AI for those not so tech savvy? And in this day and age where AI is taking over the world, people who, and we are also talking about intergenerational dialogue. So we want to have everyone using AI responsibly, and we want to have an inclusive use of AI in this day and age. So I would like to open the floor to our panelists, whoever would like to go first. But Harry, if you want, you can start off.
I would say like
not
not about tech savvy, but I would say some tech lay person, like if you can use the religious term, like people like us, we are not like programmer or engineers or not that technological person. I think one of the most important thing is like we need to think about how the information we are consuming are coming from, like going back to very basic journalistic question like who created this information, which are the sources we are getting. And by the way, with the use of AI, there are tools already exist where you can easily go to and check for especially about the news, like which publications, where they lean, where they stand on the spectrum, and how much this news can be true. So there are tools that we can use which are quite user friendly, and beyond that, I think this basic, going back to journalistic question about asking why, asking the question like who, asking the question like where, and then also reflecting on ourselves, like if this load of information coming into us, which informations are triggering us to respond. This may be something we need to work on ourselves while we are online, to be more mindful, to engage with the overloading information we are having.
Yes, and I see Taras unmuting. Please go
My
ahead.
advice would be read books. So going back to the sources, right? That can be digital books as well. But also don't treat AI as a human person. AI is not human. It's humanly created, but it can never substitute a human person. So these are two pieces of advice for me.
Thank you so much, Taras. Patrick, would you like to say anything?
Well, it's quite a hard question, but I think I do associate with Harry and Taras. I think at the end, we need to just treat AI and other technologies as tools and rather put our humanity to guide our usage of these technologies.
Thank you, everyone, Ruhi, and thank you, panelists, and for all amazing audience. That it was very lovely discussion in the chat and in the question, and I hope that this is just the starting point, and that we create a space from where you can take over and bring some of these reflection and question into your communities or AI spaces and continue conversation there. And as of course, we didn't have enough time to address all of these, but I would just like to share, let's say, few closing remarks from my end as we are closing today's conversation. I really want to thank you all for being here and for bringing not only just your expertise, as all of you are experts in so many things, but also your humanity into the space, as this was something that has been shared so much during this discussion. And I hope that today's session reminded us that the future of AI is not only as a technology question, how fast it is developing, in which direction, but it is also a deeply human one. And that is why intergenerational and interfaith dialogue matters so much. And I hope when young people and young voices live experience, ethical reflection and wisdom from different traditions comes together, that we can create a possibility for technology to serve connections rather than division. And I hope that as we'll continue to evolve rapidly, that AI will rapidly continue to evolve, but empathy and responsibility and dignity, dialogue must evolve with it. And this is all our responsibility. And may we all continue building the digital bridges rooted in compassion, in inclusion, and shared humanity. And may we all ensure that innovation never moves faster than our commitment to one another. So with these few closing words, I once again would really to thank you all for being part of this important conversation and to ask you to take it outside of these digital spaces to your communities and environment in which you are doing all incredible and very important work and making the spaces for dialogue, compassion, and action into everyday life. So I would like to give floor back to Ruhi if you would like to say a few closing remarks, and to our dear host and KAICIID team here on the screen.
Thank you so much, Leila, for summarizing this amazingly, and also it was incredible to see such an interactive webinar. I'm sure the panelists as well as the moderators, we enjoyed this session quite a lot. And thank you to our hosts and members working in the background, who are making this webinar a success. I want to also put a highlight on like a number of tools and networks we have mentioned in the chat that you can access and explore, different tools offered by KAICIID. A lot of them were shared in the chat box and are still there, and I'm sure these will help your dialogue journey, make your dialogue journey a lot more enjoyable and easier. And and if Liz would like to say anything else other than that, thank you so much for joining. See you again.